Yeah, we're not doctors or giving any medical advice. This show is intended for educational purposes only, and you should talk to your doctor about any medical issues. Now, let's get at it.
Welcome to Chat the Fat, where nutrition authors Nissa Graun and TC Hale are going to break down common low-carb mistakes. Let's chat all things low-carb, keto, digestion, and more so you can maximize your results.
Hello, and welcome back to Chat the Fat. This is episode 116. I'm TC Hale, and sometimes I say things. When I say things, sometimes Nissa Graun responds. Nissa Graun, how are you?
I am doing well. It's a little cloudy here in Arizona, which I'm not used to, but I kind of like it today.
Oh, now that you mentioned that, it's just started raining. I didn't even notice that. It'll rain for 7 minutes, and then the sun will come back out.
Here it'll rain for 20 minutes and go away for about 6 months.
6 months, right? Yeah. It's pretty good policies we have going on. So what's going on with you?
Not much. We've been busy. We haven't been on a live podcast in a while, so we're just kind of getting things together, getting back up and running, right?
Right. And I feel like we're about to be caught up from all the business of setting up all these things, and we should be able to get a lot more out.
That is right. We are actually planning to get at least a new episode to you every single week on different topics relating to keto, because a lot of things come up with keto. It's not just eat these macros and lose weight and that's the end of it. There's a lot of gray area in between, a lot of problems you have to deal with. And so our plan is to have this new podcast format where we dive really deep into specific issues each week. And we are going to tell you all of our thoughts on what is right and what is wrong. And then each week we have our private Keto Decoded group, which we are actually opening up to the public right now. You can enroll, as soon as you hear this episode. And in that group, we are going live each week to dive really, really deep. So, during the podcast, we're going to get you all the good information and what you need to know. But in the bonus episodes that you can hear on Chat the Fat and also in our group, we are going to do some magic in there.
Yeah, and it's just going to allow us, because the people in our membership they've come in and they've agreed to terms, and they've said, hey, we understand that you're not a doctor and a licensed medical professional, and so it just allows us to share a little bit more of what we do with our clients and the results that we see, and then like the steps that we see working the best. And what's great is that this membership that we're opening up to allow people to get access to these bonus episodes and to our support group is going to be super cheap. It's only $9 a month, and you get all this other extra stuff for free with that membership. That kind of makes it end up where you're not really paying for it, but it's going to allow more people to get in to have access to us. And of course, we have other levels of the membership that you can be a little more advanced and stuff like that. But this initial step to get in is dirt cheap, because we just want to make it to where everybody can get in and access and be able to ask questions when they get stuck.
I do want to mention that we are actually just coming off of another keto challenge. It just ended, and I announced the winner on Wednesday. And
Did I win?
You did not win.
Yeah.
There was no male winner because there was no male participants this time around. It was all the ladies. But if there were men in there, the ladies would have kicked their butt because they killed it this time. So we actually had a new record breaker this time around.
Whoa.
It was our longtime member, Donna, who has been with us for a while. She's come close on quite a few challenges.
I was gonna say, she's the captain of second place. She won. That's really fun.
Yeah, the last few times she lost by like 0.2 of a pound twice. I don't know how that happens twice, but it did. This time around, she broke records. She lost 25.1 pounds in only 21 days.
Shut your face, Donna.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And so when you get into our membership, you are going to be learning what Donna knows, because the reason that she was able to have such great success is, not only did she get back to keto and all the things we taught her about keto, but she also got back to her digestion. She had taken a break. She had some things she was dealing with. So she took a little bit of break from working on her digestion. And once she got back to it, started taking the right supplements for her, started following through on what she learned in our group. She killed it. She lost 24 pounds in 3 weeks.
That's super fun. That's super crazy and super fun. So that's really, that's pretty exciting when somebody puts that all together. So if somebody wants to sign up for the membership, what's the link where they go to do that?
So they can go to eatingfatisthenewskinny.com/membership, and they'll have all of the information there to join.
Yeah. And then you'll be able to have access to the bonus episodes that we'll do at the end of this show. We're going to do those live in the group so people can ask questions. But then when you're a member, you'll have access to all the bonus episodes on a podcast feed as well. So
Yeah.
anything else about that? Are we ready to jump into some poop?
We are going to talk about poop, but I just want to mention, if you are someone who goes to Starbucks and you're buying that expensive coffee, all you have to do is just buy two less cups of coffee each month, and you're paying for your membership just like that. So if
Right.
anyone's having an issue scraping together the $9 for the membership, that's one way to do it.
Yeah. Just de-coffee yourself a 8%, 8% decrease. Yeah.
When you're inside the membership, we can tell you everything you're doing wrong with Starbucks coffee.
Yeah. Or you can just go up to the counter at Starbucks and be like, hey, I dropped my coffee. Can I get another one? So you can either just not have the coffee or you can be a liar. But either way, you're going to save enough money to pay for your membership.
Yes. Okay. So now we can talk poop.
Okay. So this is a really big one because this happens with a lot of people that start keto and they're like, oh, I'm so excited about keto and I can't get off the toilet. So we kind of want to cover a lot of that stuff. And we really want to talk about what a lot of people outside of us suggest and think, and, what's the most common things that you're going to hear. And then we'll talk about which aspects of those are true and for which people and which are pretty fictional.
Yeah, and people have a lot of questions. So today we're talking more specifically about diarrhea kind of poop, that watery stuff that no one likes to deal with because it can get messy. Obviously, it gets uncomfortable, and it's just not fun to try to change your life with a keto diet, but then constantly be running to the bathroom with diarrhea. So that is what we're getting into today. And people have a lot of questions when it comes to keto and diarrhea. So we're going to try to get those answered as well.
Okay. What you got?
Okay. So the very first question, obviously, can keto even cause diarrhea, or is diarrhea on a keto diet normal?
It's not normal. We don't want it to be normal because when you're having diarrhea, like if it's like lifting you off the toilet like a rocket, like you're shooting in the air from your explosive diarrhea, that you're not assimilating any of your nutrients. It's just kind of screaming through the system. And some people think, oh, well, that's great. That way I'm not going to, gain weight because calories aren't being absorbed, but that's not really how the body works. So you need nutrients from the food you're eating. And if it's screaming through the system, that's not what you want. Now, it's not so much that keto causes diarrhea, but for the wrong person that's using keto when their body isn't set up to succeed on keto, it really could cause diarrhea, just because if all these fats are coming into the system that haven't been showing up before and the body is not set up to digest fats correctly, then those fats become toxic. So the body's like, hey, I got an idea. Just run this out the back door really, really fast.
Yes, which it's a good idea for your body, but not too much fun for you. So if someone is dealing with this, is this something they should just wait out, like just let keto diarrhea take its course and then eventually it goes away on its own?
I don't really want to see people do that. And for some people, it's possible that it could improve just because we're going to talk a little bit about what causes this, but just the triggering of the body saying, hey, processed fats may be able to turn things around for most people. But I mean, for some people, but I'm going to say 98% of people with this issue are going to need to take steps to kind of turn it around. They're going to need to fix some things with their digestion so that they can process the fats that they're eating. If you're, especially if you're a low blood pressure person and you already don't have a lot of minerals, if you just stick with diarrhea and say, I'm going to stick it out, you could be losing a lot more electrolytes and then start dealing with things like depression and crazy cravings and dizzy spells and stuff like that.
And dehydration, which on keto is not fun to deal with.
Right.
Okay. And so, obviously, with that being said, since it's different for everyone, there's no way to answer the question if someone asks, like, how long does keto diarrhea last? Because that'll obviously be different for every person, right?
Right. And my goal for how long keto diarrhea lasts is 0 minutes. It's nothing. I want you to have no diarrhea on keto. And if you do things the way that we have people set things up, because we like to see people set themselves up to succeed before they even start keto. When you're doing that, then the diarrhea doesn't show up. You don't have to be one of those people.
Okay. And so there's, a lot of information about diarrhea. Obviously, people want to know because they don't want to deal with this. So let's talk about some of the things that can cause diarrhea on keto. So one of the first things that you were just talking about is having too much fat or, calculating macros incorrect for you. What do you have to say about that?
I have to say that, yeah, that's, you know, let's look at it this way. We're going to talk about how digestion works and how a person should process fats correctly. But if if you're not processing fats amazingly, any increase in fats could cause a diarrhea episode. You might not even have to be on keto. You might be able to be like, I'm going to have some extra butter today, and here it comes out the back door. So any amount of fat that comes in that is more than what your body can deal with, your body is going to look for a way to get rid of these unprocessed fats, and maybe it'll push some of them out through the skin, and you might have like a breakout or a rash or something. Maybe it's just going to store some of these fats in fat cells, and then you gain weight, and you're like, hey, why am I doing the opposite of what all the cool keto people are doing? They're supposed to lose weight. But for a lot of people, the body's just going to shove it out the back door. So it's either that you're eating too many fats that are right for your macros. We teach people how to calculate our macros to find out the amount of fat that's right for you. But even if you're eating the fat that might be right for your body, if you can't process that level of fats, it's still going to end up with a loose stool thing.
And so speaking of kinds of fat, does it really matter? Like, is it just too much fat for you no matter what kind of fats you eat? Or I know like a lot of people say when they eat too much MCT oil, that can result in quick trips to the bathroom.
Yeah, and MCT oil seems to be the captain of the diarrhea keto community. And we don't like to see people use a lot of MCT oil anyway, maybe initially as like a training wheel to help you get into ketosis, but we don't like to see people using a whole lot of that. Coconut oil has MCTs in it, and we like it just seems to come in a better package that's easier to assimilate and such. But it's just the way that MCT oil is processed that for some people, any is going to create a loose stool, and for others, too much is going to create a loose stool. So that is a big one. And if you're having a loose stool and you're using MCT oil, the first step you want to take is to remove those until your stool slows down.
Okay. And so is there like a fat hierarchy? Like you should, if you're having diarrhea or loose stools, you should avoid MCT oil. Are there like any other fats that you see the same thing with?
Well, there's a lot of toxic fats out there, any kind of hydrogenated fat, hydrogenated oils, kind of the trans fat kind of things. Everybody knows for the most part that those are toxic. So, but if somebody was going on a keto diet and they're like, oh, all I have to do is increase my fats, any kind of fats, and they were using all these junk products that had a lot of those fats in there, then an increase in those fats could create a problem for the body. They would want to make it rush it out the back door. So all those bad fats, you definitely don't want to increase those. The next item on that hierarchy, for some people could be dairy fats. If they're having problems with dairy and they're not processing dairy correctly, and they go on the captain of bacon and cheese diet, and they're just eating like cheese soaked bacon all day, then they're getting all this dairy that's a lot more dairy than they were consuming before, where they could have had an intolerance to dairy and didn't really know. If they're just eating a little bit, it might not be causing such a big problem. But when they get this huge increase in dairy, all of a sudden it's a huge butt problem.
Yeah, and a lot of people do increase dairy on keto because it's one of the easy keto foods. It's most dairy is very low in carbs, and it is higher in fat, and tastes
Oh,
really
it's delicious. Yeah,
good.
that's what you got to think about that part. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it
everybody.
will make your food taste good. So a lot of people are eating a lot more cheese than they did before keto.
Right. And that doesn't mean that we're saying that cheese is not right for, everybody on keto. Some people can't do well with cheese, but some people do very well. So this is just a possibility that could be creating a loose stool for you if you've increased your dairy and you're not doing great on dairy.
Now, something else that people will increase when they go on keto or maybe even just start for the first time are sugar alcohols, because there's a lot of packaged foods out there that say they're keto friendly on the label. And so these packaged foods need a way to sweeten them up because they're not using sugar anymore, or at least any sugar that provides like a real amount of calories like that. So do you see that with sugar alcohols can result in more diarrhea on keto?
Yeah, and it's pretty common because somebody's like, "Oh, I'm going to go do keto, so I'm going to go to the store and I'm just going to walk down the aisle, and everything that says keto on it is going to go in my grocery bag." That's kind of how they do it. This is how I'm going to do keto, and most of the products that are sold as keto products are not very optimal, and they have a lot of these uh, sweeteners that are very difficult for a lot of people to process and digest and get through the digestive system. And they will either create some pretty significant cramping or loose stool issues for some people. And so that's another thing that you want to get rid of if you're having loose stool issues is you got to get rid of all of the garbage keto food, which we like to see people do anyways. It's okay for training wheels in the beginning if you really need help and your previous diet was driving through Burger King every day, or just eating a lot of junk carbs and such. But we see people get much better results when they're eating real food keto.
Yeah, and so if anyone's confused about what the sugar alcohols are, it'll tell you if the food has sugar alcohols right on the label. But if you're looking for the ingredients on the package, you want to look for the ingredients that end in the OLs, so like sorbitol, erythritol, maltitol, and xylitol. Those are all sweeteners that are used in keto-friendly products that can lead to a lot of digestive distress, including diarrhea.
Right.
And one more thing that may be a cause of some people's keto diarrhea is, obviously when you start keto, you want to supplement with electrolytes because that's super important. But what are your thoughts on supplementing with too much magnesium when it comes to having loose stools on keto?
Yeah, and if you listen to any other keto expert, they're going to say to buy a gallon of magnesium and finish it by Thursday, and that can be a really big problem. Um, in the members only episode for this episode, we're going to talk about an imbalance that can create a loose stool issue, and it's an imbalance that causes the body to send more water to the bowels and less to the kidneys. And magnesium is the best way to magnify and exacerbate that imbalance. So if you happen to be a person that's already leaning the wrong way for that imbalance, then magnesium is going to magnify that. Now, for most people, they're going to do keto. They're going to start peeing out a little more minerals, and a little bit of magnesium can be extremely beneficial to them, along with some other electrolytes for some people, not all people, but some. But it's really common to see someone taking too much magnesium, and it just causes the body to send too much water to the kidneys, and now they're wet stuff coming out all day. And so that can be a big problem. We'll dig into this topic a little bit more when we have more time in the bonus members only episode 2.
Okay, and now speaking of magnesium, when someone is going through keto flu, that's obviously one of the recommendations is to, you know, um, do more electrolytes, including magnesium. But what about keto flu itself? Can that be a cause of someone's diarrhea? Like, can they just expect diarrhea to stop once they've gone through the keto flu aspect?
No, but I don't really view it as keto flu going to cause diarrhea, but I could view diarrhea as either causing or magnifying keto flu, because most of the keto flu issues are going to be the result of um, minerals going too low because insulin's coming down and the body's peeing out a lot of minerals, and or the body not really having a fuel source that it's good at functioning or processing. So you took away your carbs and that was your body's main fuel source. So now the body's not really left with anything to function on. And that's really the cause of most keto flu issues. Um, but diarrhea could really cause or magnify those by having all of your food just ripping through the system like a race car. It's not getting assimilated. So you're, you have access to fewer nutrients, fewer minerals, all that stuff, which could make keto flu a lot worse.
Okay. And speaking of like keto flu and getting started, a lot of people, when they start keto, they actually start drinking more coffee. I know this firsthand because I actually never drank coffee until I started keto, but everyone talked about bulletproof coffee and how great it was for brain fog and how great it was to help get you into ketosis. Um, but, I have heard that too much coffee or too much caffeine can have a laxative effect. Do you think people upping their intake of coffee can also lead to diarrhea on keto?
Yeah, it can. And then there's a couple of aspects to this because a lot of coffee for some people can have a similar effect as it does the magnesium. It's not just that coffee is a laxative like people think, it's that it's pushing this imbalance too far and making the body send too much water to the bowels. So that can be one aspect. But also, when people are drinking the coffee, they're like, oh, I'm doing this bulletproofy, fatty coffee thing. So I'm going to put all these fats in there, and then they just drink this coffee by itself. And before, they may have been eating some fats with food, and then the fats are easier for the body to process and break down during the digestive process. But when there's no food being digested, the digestive process isn't starting, and you're just putting these liquid fats that go right in, and it can just be a little overwhelming to the body. A lot of people are using MCT oils and a lot of these other fats that they would not have used normally, or especially in this large amount. That's one aspect. But the other aspect is that they're getting it by itself without food there to have that digestive process kind of helping things out.
Okay. And so now that we have talked about all of the things that could possibly cause diarrhea on keto, I think let's talk about some things that maybe can help with keto diarrhea. I know that we have a big one that we're going to talk about. But what about a lot of people want to know, will something like probiotics actually help slow down or stop keto diarrhea?
Probiotics can be involved in that process of slowing down, chronic diarrhea. But I don't see it being hugely beneficial for keto caused diarrhea. Like if you're just having diarrhea because you're doing keto, I don't see probiotics as being super beneficial there. If somebody took pounds of specific types of probiotics that could be beneficial, maybe it could have some type of effect, but that's not where I would go ever with anybody. I would never say, oh, you just started having diarrhea on keto, let's do probiotics.
Okay. Um, what about, if what about the people who are following keto for a while and everything is going smoothly, and then maybe they have a cheat day or they want to get into carb cycling and they notice that they have diarrhea directly after eating carbs? What would lead to that?
It could depend on the type of carbs they were eating. It's kind of this interesting thing that we eat a lot of junk in this country, and that's kind of our jam. Is we eat jam, but like if we're eating all this garbage, the body starts to realize, oh, I this stuff is not good. So as it comes in, I know what to do with it. I'm going to shove it in a fat cell. I'm going to push it out this way. I've gotten good at getting rid of those toxins as they come in. And so when someone stops eating this stuff and they start eating more things, once they put it back in, it can be a kind of a shock to the body sometimes for some people. And the body might be in a rush to get this out of the body. But that's really the only scenario that I see that would create diarrhea for someone who has been doing well without diarrhea and then adds carbs back in and gets a loose stool.
So if eating more fat on keto can lead to diarrhea for some people, but you have to eat enough fat to get into ketosis, what should someone do? What should they even eat if they find that they're having really loose stools on keto?
Right. And what we have to first look at is why is it that some people can increase their fat a lot and be fine and not have any issues, and other people will have this chronic diarrhea or acne or nausea or they're vomiting? They have all these problems when they increase their fat. So there has to be a reason that it's not just a genetic thing or, I drew the lucky cards. It's really about the body's ability to digest the types of foods that you're eating. And when we consume, like, proteins and, especially animal proteins, the stomach has to make hydrochloric acid to break that food down into amino acids so the body can use it. And if a person's stomach acid function is not working correctly, then they're going to have problems with that. So it's kind of the same situation with fats. The body does what's called emulsify the fats, which means that that's how it kind of breaks it down. And it breaks those fats down using bile. And bile is this soapy stuff that's made in the liver and it's stored in the gallbladder. And when we eat food, after it's acidified and broken down in the stomach, it leaves the stomach and it goes into that first part of the small intestine. And then the gallbladder squirts bile down onto that to neutralize those acids so that the acids don't, basically digest your intestinal tract. And it's this bile, when it squirts down, it goes and it emulsifies all the fats that are in that food that left the stomach, and it breaks the fats apart. So the bile has a lot of purposes, but one of them is to emulsify and help us digest our fats. But the problem is there's a lot of things in life that can cause this bile to get too thick and sticky so it doesn't flow correctly. And then the bile is not released like it's supposed to, or maybe it's only able to release a very small amount. So you may have been doing okay with small amounts of fats because you had a small amount of bile flow, but once you increase these fats, you didn't have enough bile flow to do that. So then it creates all those problems. So what we teach people to do is we teach people how to use a beet green supplement called Beet Flow from Empirical Labs. And this helps to thin out the bile so that it can flow correctly. And once they can thin out that bile and get bile moving, now the body has the ability to process these high amounts of fats and they don't have all this trouble. So, if you're having symptoms like, acne, or you get nauseous, or you can look at things like your saliva pH to see if it's low. There's a number of signs you can look at to see is bile flowing well or not before you even start keto, and then you can avoid all the trouble.
And does it seem like to you that, a lot of people who may be having trouble with diarrhea on keto, soon after starting the beet flow, it clears up pretty quickly, or does it take some time?
Yeah, for a lot of people, and I would say the majority of people, it's within a week that things are improving and they have this bile flowing. Now, there are people where it could have been backed up for decades and they need to do a lot more than just beet flow to get things moving. And we're going to talk about some of those other steps in the members only bonus episode that will come up next. But for most people, they're going to be able to just use Beet Flow and get it going. And if you want to look at and understand how to use these supplements and maybe look at some of the other aspects of your physiology to figure out if bile is needing help or not, we have a free keto digestion course that you can kind of go through, and it just helps you understand all these things. It helps you understand how to look at different self-tests that you can do at home with tools you can pick up at a pharmacy or a health food store. And that's the best way to go. And it's totally free. You can get it at kickitnaturally.com/keto digest. And that's going to walk you through all that process. But for most people, they're going to be able to do that. And then there's other people that they're going to have to do more steps and they'll have to do more work to be able to do that, to
So
digest
even,
fats that well.
yeah, even just having the beet flow in your corner, I feel like is almost a magic trick that not a lot of people know about, because I've never really heard anyone else talk about it. Like, I hear people talk about adding bile salts. What's the difference between like bile salts and beet flow?
Bile salts is basically like, it's like ox bile. And that's something that we use for people who have lost their gallbladder so that they don't have this ability to store bile. And so we use this ox bile. But ox bile is not the same as beet flow because you're putting bile into the stomach where it doesn't belong. Bile is this alkaline substance. and the stomach is meant to become acidified, and that helps us acidify our food. So a lot of people just like, yeah, take ox bile or bile salts with your meal and you'll be golden. But you're improving your ability to process fats at the same time you're removing your ability to actually break your food down. So the digestive process needs the acid side and it needs the bile side, and when they collide, this opposite reaction of these opposite pHs creates this sizzle that really allows us to break the food down and pull the nutrients out. So without both sides, we can't actually access all the nutrients in our food. So that's why we don't like to see people just use bile unless they've lost their gallbladder, and then we teach them how to use it correctly.
Okay. Yeah. And, I hear about these other things like the bile salts, or I think I've heard like take bitters or certain things like that. And it sounds like it might help a little, but not, it's like nothing compared to what beet flow can really do. And
Right,
then,
and bitters is actually helping the acid side of the digestive process, and it doesn't really do anything to help the bile side. Unless
okay.
if somebody had no stomach acid, then a lot of times it's that stomach acid that's triggering the bile to flow. It's like, when the stomach leaves the stomach, it's like, okay, bile, let's do some flowing. So if someone had no stomach acid and the food leaving the stomach wasn't acidic at all, then the bitters could help the bile flow a little bit in that way. But you're really wanting to acidify much better than just bitters can do. You want to, if you're not acidifying your food properly, we teach people how to use HCl the right way in that free digestion course too.
It's a really great podcast to listen to because I can tell you everything that's said in the mainstream, and then you can come on and say exactly why it is wrong.
Right. And it's, what's great is that, let's say that somebody is making some stomach acid, but they just need a little boost. They'll do something like use bitters, and it will change their entire world, and the results they see will be amazing. And so then they say, oh, this is how you do it. This is how everybody should do it because this did great things for me. But for most people, they need a lot more help than bitters. So they try the bitters, it doesn't work. They hate everybody and they go back to Burger King. So we'd like to help people avoid the giving up so quickly and help them understand why things are not going well for them.
Yes, I have been that person in the past where I gave up and I went to Burger King, and that just made the problem worse. So don't be that person.
And
If
then
you
after Burger King, you came home and got on the treadmill for 7 days.
after I ordered my Diet Coke and my which did not work. Yeah, so definitely test out the beet flow. If you are having diarrhea, it's something that can really help you. But we are going to go into our private group because there's even more. If beet flow isn't enough for you, you have a bunch of different ways that you can help improve this for the long term. It's not just throwing a band-aid on it, getting a quick fix and moving on, but this is something that you want to improve so you can keep seeing results over the long term. And I see you have a bunch of different things laid out that you are ready to teach our Keto Decoded members.
Right. And so we're going to talk about some other possible causes of loose stools too. These are not as common, especially with people who got chronic diarrhea from starting keto, but things like, food sensitivity problems and, bacterial overgrowths and things like that. We're going to dig into some of those things. We're also going to talk about some more advanced ways to slow down the stool because you may get the bile flowing and find that you need to fix some other problems that are contributing to a loose stool as well. And we'll also talk about some other more advanced supplements that people can implement to check that out too. So if you're already a Keto Decoded member, then you will have gotten an email showing you how to access the feed for the members only episodes. So you just go to that feed to get the bonus episode for this one if you're not in the live group when we record it. So you'll have 2 ways to listen to it for the members.
Awesome. And then, of course, we will be back next week to deep dive into even more keto topics. In the meantime, if you want to listen to our extended bonus episode on other causes of diarrhea with keto, you can go to eatingfatisthenewskinny.com/membership to learn how to join. And remember, it's only $9 a month for a lot of really amazing information.
Somebody's dog knocked my coffee over. Can I get another coffee? Boom, free membership. Also, guys, if you, I teach such good values. I teach good values here. If you guys have questions or topics that you want us to cover, go to chatthefat.com and just hit the contact us button and send us an email. Let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll cover it on an upcoming show.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Whether you're brand new to keto or just looking to move past roadblocks, join us for our next Troubleshooting Keto Master Workshop. Go to chatthefat.com/workshop to find upcoming dates and register for this totally free event. You just might find your missing piece of the puzzle. And